So what are the types of due diligence? Number one, legal due diligence. And what are the components of legal due diligence? Components of legal due diligence are: number one, statutory compliances; number two, contract contract scrutiny, contract due diligence, and finding out as to what are the rights and obligations of the target company as per those contracts. And number three, litigation and legal proceedings. And we understand legal litigation and legal proceedings can have a negative impact in future, and therefore it has to be ascertained even before the deal is done, even before the deal is done, to put in place that there are no risks involved as a result of litigations, pending litigations, or as a result of legal proceedings. And even if there is some risk involved, then that risk will need to be factored into the pricing of the transaction. Number two is financial and tax due diligence. Number three, accounting due diligence. And in accounting due diligence, again, there are three components that you will need to take care. Component number one, balance sheet related due diligence. क्या मतलब है balance sheet related due diligence? It simply means all the items that you have in the balance sheet of the company on the given date, you will need to check each and every item of the balance sheet, assets as well as the liabilities, as to whatever is reflecting in the balance sheet, in reality, that is the case or not. And that is your balance sheet due diligence. Number two, profit and loss related due diligence. So that means what? That means all the components that you have in the profit and loss, starting from the income and different expenses. So due diligence will need to be carried out of all the components that appear in the P&L statement, so as to ensure कि ये जो कंपनी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बता रही है, दिखा रही है, हकीकत में उतनी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है कि नहीं है. So are the numbers in the profit and loss really matching with the actual situation or not, or the company has just manipulated the profit and loss statement and given it to you. And why is that so? Because remember, ultimately when you will prepare the discounted cash flow based valuation, you will be using the profit and loss, and you will offer your starting point of the profit and loss that you will use is going to be the profit and loss which is the actual one. तो अगर वो एक्चुअल जो प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस है उसके ही नंबर अगर गलत होंगे तो आपके प्रोजेक्टेड जो नंबर बनाएंगे कैश फ्लो के वो गलत होंगे. अगर वो गलत होंगे तो आपका वैल्यूएशन गलत होगा, आपका वैल्यूएशन गलत होगा तो आपका डिसीजन गलत होगा. एंड दैट इज व्हाई द सेकंड स्टेप in the due diligence as part of the accounting due diligence is due diligence of profit and loss statement. And the third is due diligence of notes to account and below the line items. So notes to account में जो भी information है उसको पूरी तरह से scrutinize करना होता है. एंड उसके अलावा जो भी बिलो दी लाइन आइटम्स हैं, कॉन्टिजेंट लाइबिलिटीज दी हुई है, कुछ डिस्क्लोजर्स है, वॉट एवर दे मे बी, दोज विल नीड टू बी ड्यू डिलीजेंस will need to be carried out with regard to those items as well. Number 4 is the employee related due diligence. उनके साथ में क्या कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स हैं, उनको क्या सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर है पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का, वो बिकॉज दैट इज गोइंग टू बी योर रिकरिंग लाइबिलिटी, एंड दैट इज वाई एम्प्लॉय रिलेटेड ड्यू डिलीजेंस. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है कि किसी को स्टॉक ऑप्शंस दिए हुए हैं, अगर स्टॉक ऑप्शंस दिए हुए हैं तो उनकी क्या लाइबिलिटी है, और एम्प्लॉय के जो बेनिफिट्स हैं उनकी क्या लाइबिलिटीज़ है, पास्ट की क्या लाइबिलिटीज़ हैं, एम्प्लॉय बेनिफिट्स क्या क्या हैं, लॉन्ग टर्म एम्प्लॉय बेनिफिट्स क्या क्या हैं, शॉर्ट टर्म एम्प्लॉय बेनिफिट्स क्या क्या हैं, और सुपरएनुएशन की लाइबिलिटी क्या है, प्रोविडेंट फंड की लाइबिलिटी क्या है, ग्रेचुइटी की लाइबिलिटी क्या है. ऑल दैट हैज़ टू बी चेक्ड एज पार्ट ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय रिलेटेड ड्यू डिलीजेंस. Number 5 is operational diligence. Number 6 is assets और IPR फैसिलिटी रिलेटेड ड्यू डिलीजेंस. सो कंपनी बोल रही कि हमारी यहाँ पे लैंड है, यहाँ पे प्लांट है, यहाँ पे फैक्ट्री है, ये हमारी कैपेसिटी है. सो उतनी कैपेसिटी है कि नहीं है, दैट इज व्हाट विल नीड टू बी चेक. बिकॉज यू कैन इमेजिन if the company is saying X number of capacity, and if it turns out 70% of that, obviously your calculations will go for a big toss. So sixth point, due diligence of assets, IPR and facilities related due diligence. 7 is investigation of title deeds and ownership. And 8 is environment related due diligence. And finally, of course, geographical due diligence. So these are the 9 elements of the due diligence or types of due diligence that will need to be carried out as and when a corporate restructuring transaction or business combination transaction is being contemplated. Now, before I close discussion on this, friends, please remember this list, these nine due diligences that we are talking about. This list is only an indicative one and not an exhaustive one. All the items that we covered under our discussion on PESTEL, political, economic, social, technology, legal and environment PESTEL analysis, तो वो जो सारे पॉइंट हमने उसमें कवर किए थे, as part of the due diligence, all those aspects have to be taken care of, because the ultimate aim is not to have any surprises or shocks after the deal is done. So this, friends, is your due diligence that we need to carry out before any transaction of corporate restructuring or a business combination is implemented.